Let's be honest, the world of work in 2026 feels like a high-tech fever dream. We have AI agents screening our resumes, health rings tracking our stress, and virtual reality boardrooms. But here is the secret that most career influencers won't tell you. Beneath the glass and the fiber optics, the corporate world is still operating on a medieval psychological framework. My name is Paul. This year marks my 16th year in the recruitment industry, and I've spent over a decade of that inside the belly of the beast, working alongside and interviewing the heavy hitters from places like Google, Meta, and Amazon. I recently sat down for a long, unfiltered conversation with a former senior recruiter from Google. What he told me didn't just change how I view hiring, it changed how I view the human condition in the workplace. He drew a direct line from the dark, creepy habits of the Middle Ages to the modern open-plan office. I need you to stay with me until the very end of this video. This is going to be a deep dive, a masterclass in professional survival. At the very end, I'm going to share a specific psychological pattern interrupt called the exorcism question. It is the only way to break a hiring manager out of their unconscious bias and force them to see your true value. Let's peel back the curtain, the modern trial by ordeal. Back in the medieval era, when evidence was scarce, the justice system relied on something called trial by ordeal. The logic was simple. If you are innocent, God will protect you from horrific pain. The most common was the hot iron test. You carried a red-hot iron bar for 9 feet, and your hands were bandaged. 3 days later, if the wound was clean, you were innocent. If it was infected, you were guilty. The insider perspective. In my 16 years, I've realized that the modern cultural fit interview is exactly this. We put candidates through 6, 7, even 8 rounds of interviews. We give them take-home assignments that take 20 hours to complete. We are essentially asking them to carry the hot iron. The ex-Google recruiter told me, "Paul, we didn't always hire the best. We hired the ones who didn't fester during the process." If a candidate showed even a sliver of frustration or infection after the 5th round of interviews, they were deemed guilty of a bad attitude and rejected. We aren't testing skill anymore. We are testing the strength of your immune system against corporate bureaucracy. If you recognize this, you can stop taking the rejection personally. It's not about your talent. It's about how well you can hide the burns. The dancing plague of hustle culture. Think about the dancing plague of 1518 in Strasbourg. One woman starts dancing, then 30, then 400. They danced until their feet bled, until they had heart attacks, screaming for help while their bodies refused to stop. The authorities' solution? They built a stage and hired musicians to keep the rhythm going. The real-life example. Does this sound like your current Scrum or Agile environment? In the tech world, we see hustle culture, where teams are redlining for months. Instead of reducing the workload or hiring more staff, the company installs a nap pod, offers unlimited PTO that no one actually has time to take, and brings in a chief happiness officer to keep the music playing. My ex-Google peer and I discussed how management often builds the stage for the burnout. We reward the person dancing the hardest, even if they are clearly dying inside. As a recruiter, I've had to headhunt people to replace dancers who literally collapsed. The takeaway for you is this. If the music is playing and everyone is screaming but still moving, don't jump on the stage. The most successful people I've placed are the ones who know how to step out of the street and protect their energy while everyone else is caught in the collective hysteria. Professionalizing the pig in a suit. Animal trials. One of the most bizarre things about medieval law was putting animals on trial. Pigs, rats, and even beetles were given court-appointed lawyers. There's a famous case where a lawyer defended rats for eating barley by claiming they couldn't come to court because the cats in the neighborhood made travel too dangerous. He won a stay of execution. The corporate parallel. In the boardroom, we do this every single day. When a project fails, we put the process on trial. We blame the algorithm, the software, or the market volatility, treating these inanimate objects as if they have moral agency. I've sat in post-mortem meetings where an entire department failed to hit a target, and instead of the VP saying, "I made a bad call," they spend 3 hours prosecuting the CRM system. We dress up these failures in fancy terminology, the pig in a suit, and hire consultants, the lawyers, to defend the broken system. If you find yourself in a company that puts the pigs on trial instead of looking at human leadership, you are in a place that will never learn from its mistakes. The human soup of the open office. Medieval people loved communal bathhouses. It wasn't about getting clean. The water was changed once every 2 weeks. It was human soup. It was a community hub where business was done and gossip was traded, despite the fact that it was a breeding ground for disease. The experience. This is the literal definition of the open office plan. We have mountains of data proving that open offices destroy productivity, increase stress, and lead to more sick days. Yet, in 2026, companies still insist on them for spontaneous collaboration. My recruiter friend laughed and said, "Google mastered the human soup. We made the soup taste like free kombucha so people wouldn't notice they were soaking in everyone else's distractions." As a career strategist, I tell my clients, the open office isn't for you, it's for the bathhouse operators, management, who want to make sure everyone is in the tub. If you want to survive the human soup, you need to find ways to create your own private water, whether that's through noise-canceling technology or negotiating remote days. Don't let the communal vibe drown your actual output. The Cadaver Synod of Performance Reviews. In 897, Pope Stephen VI dug up the rotting corpse of his predecessor Formosus, dressed him in papal robes, and put him on trial. He screamed questions at the corpse, and a deacon hid behind the throne to answer in a squeaky voice. The recruiter's insight. This is the annual performance review, especially when a new manager takes over. They dig up your corpse, your files from 3 years ago, your old mistakes, your rotting projects, and put them on trial to justify why you aren't getting a raise. I've seen recruiters do this during background checks too. They dig up a skeleton from a candidate's past and force the candidate to defend it as if it happened yesterday. "Paul," the recruiter told me, "it's easier to prosecute a ghost than to reward a living person. My advice? Keep your win log fresh. Don't let them define you by the corpse of who you were 3 years ago. Bring the living evidence of what you did this morning to every meeting. The health ring and the miasma of stress." In the transcript you saw earlier, the creator talked about a health ring. Medieval people believed in miasma, the idea that bad smells cause disease. They carried posies and perfumes to ward off the stink of death. The 2026 context. Today, our posies are our wearable tech. We track our sleep scores and our cortisol spikes. But here is the irony. The very devices we use to track our stress are often the source of it. We are obsessed with the miasma of our data. In my 16 years, the most successful executives I've hired aren't the ones with the perfect Oura score. They are the ones who know when to take the ring off. They understand that your value isn't a stress score generated by an algorithm. The Google recruiter noted that the most resilient people at the top were the ones who were the most offline. They didn't let the miasma of constant notifications dictate their sense of well-being. The Bone Church, the digital legacy. Finally, we have the Sedlec ossuary, the church made of human bones. Thousands of plague victims turned into chandeliers and coats of arms. It's a memento mori, a reminder that you will die. The final thought. In the digital age, your data is your bone church. Every rejected email in your inbox, every ghosted application, every low rating on a peer-to-peer feedback platform, these are the bones of your career. Recruiters in 2026 have X-ray vision. We can see the bone church of your professional history through AI-driven background tools. But here's the thing. The bone church is actually beautiful. It's art made from struggle. My ex-Google friend told me his favorite candidates weren't the ones with no bones. They were the ones who could point to their past failures and show how they built something beautiful out of them. The exorcism question, your survival key. You've stayed with me through 1-800 words of medieval madness. Here is the exorcism question I promised you. When you find yourself in an interview that feels like a trial by ordeal, where they are asking you generic, soul-crushing questions or judging you based on the miasma of your resume, you need to perform a pattern interrupt. Wait for a pause. Look them in the eye and say, "We can talk all day about my past bones and my history, but let's do something different." If we strip away the titles and the HR process for a moment, what is the one haunting problem in this department that keeps you up at night, and what does the person who solves it look like to you? Why is this the exorcism question? It breaks the ritual. It stops the interrogation and starts a consultation. It identifies the ghost. It forces the manager to admit what they are actually afraid of, e.g., "Our last guy was lazy," or "We are losing money on X." It makes you the living solution. Once they tell you the problem, you stop being a candidate on trial. You become the priest who can cast out the demon. The 16-year conclusion. The Middle Ages ended when the Enlightenment began, when people started looking at facts instead of superstitions. Your career enlightenment happens when you realize that the corporate world is just a collection of people who are as scared and confused as anyone else, hiding behind medieval processes. I've been doing this since 2010. I've seen it all. Don't be a dancer in the plague. Don't be a pig on trial. And certainly don't let them put your corpse on a throne. If you want to know how to navigate the specific trials by ordeal in your industry, I've put together a 2026 interview survival kit in the description below. It includes the exorcism script and 5 other pattern interrupts that I've seen work at the highest levels of Google and Amazon. Subscribe, hit the bell, and remember, you aren't just a collection of bones, you are the architect. I'm Paul, and I'll see you in the next one.